Just play peaceful is the easiest way to stop hostile mobs spawning in your Minecraft world, but most people aren't trying to stop mobs from spawning altogether, they're just trying to stop them from spawning in particular places. And with that in mind, I think it's a very understandable, noble, and even fun goal to stop mobs from spawning in your Minecraft world. I've spent many years making my overworld very, very mob-proof for a 500 block radius around my house, and this is a fun target by itself, but I've also stopped Endermen from being able to spawn on my end island, and today I'm going to be stopping Ghast from spawning in my nether. The truth is, there are a lot of things you can do to mob-proof your world, and they're definitely worth giving a try to, because unless you like being surprised by creepers, ghasts, endermen, and all sorts of other nasties, maybe you should put some effort into making sure they cannot physically be there in any way at all. So we'll start by mentioning that torches are the boring, old-fashioned way to do this. This is how I lit up my world because it is the easiest method. Place torches at a consistent interval so that there is never a light level below 0, and you'll never have mobs spawn. It's a very delightful method that has gotten a lot easier as of 1.18 because now you can have the torches be much further spaced apart and still not have mobs spawning there. However, it is a bit old-fashioned, right? I mean, it does work. You can literally see the line where the torches stop and the mobs start spawning, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily fun, and from my super flat world, I've learned there are much more interesting ways you can do the exact same thing. Let's take that area over there, for example, right in front off the, my lovely cobblestone generator. You can see how there are mobs spawning here, and maybe I don't want them to, but, lighting it up is not the best way necessarily. And so if you want to stop them, obviously you would use light, but if you're trying to avoid torches because you don't want to light it up, or you just think it looks tacky to have a big torch grid, I think it's fine, but some people don't like it, then what you can do instead is you can use partial blocks. And this is real fun when you're using something like the slabs, because you can place the slabs down and it'll look like a normal floor level after you've placed enough of them, and you won't even know that no mobs can spawn there necessarily. You can use carpets, which are a similar effect. These are even less noticeable in my opinion, and if you really want to go next level on carpets that aren't noticeable, seriously, if you place down some moss carpet, you might notice in this area with this particular grass color, but if we go to the, what is apparently a jungle biome, you can see how it's very, very, very similar in texture and color to the rest of the biome. In fact, if you covered an entire plains biome in moss carpet, no mobs would spawn there, and you would be none the wiser. So moss carpet, regular carpet, and slabs are all great ideas in my opinion, but the best one, the easiest one, is just to whip out, also by the way, trapdoors I really like as an idea. They're very, very expensive, but they do have a nice little texture to them, and then you can go around doing this if you really want to, and even, even when you do things that look like they shouldn't work, like placing these trapdoors this way, as a fun little one, this looks like a mob should be able to spawn here, but because this block is a non-solid block and this block is a non-solid block, even though there is space for a mob to spawn, they can't spawn between two blocks. Very handy to know, in my opinion, but you know what else is handy to know? The fact that you don't need to use any of these blocks if you've got grass below you, because the craziest non-solid block is the pathway block. That's right, this block right here, which you can get just by placing on the ground, will stop mobs from spawning, and that is why every flat world you look at is really, really brown. It's not because people just love turning grass into pathways so much. It's because it's the only way you can guarantee no mobs will spawn that doesn't require placing blocks on the ground, which is valuable if you need to cover, say, 1,000 blocks very easily, so you can light up your biome, or you can just make them into pathway blocks. Whichever one you prefer will have the exact same results, which is easy for me to say, but allow me to wait till nighttime. As you can see, mobs are only spawning outside of the pathwayed up area. They're spawning all the way over there, but no matter how far I get from these blocks, mobs will have to walk onto them if they want to spawn there. Honestly, it's a nice little display, right? I kind of want to keep it, but it's a really nice little area, and mobs can only spawn beyond it. But even here, you're not going to notice any mobs spawning onto those blocks because it is impossible for them to do so. Whereas just grass when it's raining and it's dark and there's nothing on there, that's going to be a big problem. Also, why is there a skeleton horse in a boat on my big flat area? If you're curious, this is the one area of my world that isn't lit up, deliberately so I can go hunt mobs here, because one reason that you want to light up your world is to deliberately stop them spawning in one place so they'll all spawn in another. The more mobs there are just randomly sitting around your world, the fewer mobs you'll find when you need them. So if you need a ton of creepers and you don't have a creeper farm yet, well, you come through here and you slice and dice them one by one, and wow, now you've got a lot of creeper dust. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Anyway, this technique of ensuring that mobs can only spawn in one place is also something I do in my end for my now defunct Enderman farm, but I'll take you there anyway to show you what it looks like. By the way, the end portal room will usually light itself up nicely because it's filled with lava, but if you ever remove that lava, you could obviously remove the ceiling and guarantee natural light comes in here. Really great idea. But anyway, let's go to the actual end, and let me show you my strategy to making sure no mobs spawn here, because although you can place light around this thing, and this is usually the strategy people use, I do think the end is a particularly ugly place to be covered in torches. It just doesn't feel natural in this dimension to be covering in torches, so here's what I did instead. I covered it in glass. Why did I laminate the end? That doesn't seem like it's doing anything positive for me. The reason I covered the end in glass is that no hostile mobs can spawn on transparent blocks. That includes Enderman, that includes this dimension. It also includes the Nether if you want to cover your Nether in glass, but as you can see, I am in a Nether with 0 mobs. Right now we should be surrounded by Enderman, and yet none are spawning. In case that's not convincing enough for you, allow me to break literally like, I don't know, like 3 blocks over here. I'll break these just 5 blocks right here, a real simple number, and then let's get enough distance away that mobs can spawn there, and wait just a few seconds. Okay, no. Oh, my elytra didn't activate. I almost died. Thank God for this. Sorry, I think I was doing something with Enderman before I... Yeah, let's take the stairs up. I don't know if I can trust my elytra right now. By the way, notice how these stairs are very dark, but because they're glass, nothing's spawning on them. Okay, I'm gonna pick a slightly darker spot, and I'm gonna make sure that it's like a 3x3 square. You know, like it's really tiny enough that, you know, coincidentally, this isn't going to be the 4x4 square. You know, I guess I upped the size. A 4x4 square, it's obviously not going to be the magic size that makes Enderman spawn in that one particular spot. It's interesting because Enderman are spawning right next to the patch, but they're not spawning in the patch itself. I wonder if they immediately are teleporting and I've just not seen it, or if they're coming from, you know, the Enderman farm over there. Either way, I'm hopefully showing that there are way fewer Endermen than you would expect in the end, and if we flew away and came back, no more would spawn, because yeah, when you have a transparent block, no mobs can spawn in any dimension. And you might think this just includes glass, because it's the most obvious transparent block, but also, you can use jungle leaves if you want to, and honestly, for the end, if you wanted to cover the entire thing in slabs, or, ooh, that is weird, huh? If you wanted to cover the entire thing in leaves or slabs or trapdoors, you could do that as well. Or indeed, if you want to cover the thing in lava, because that's a source of light and a block that stops mobs from spawning, it is very, very effective. Anything that has any amount of light or any amount of transparency will stop mobs spawning. The one weird exception that I learned while looking into it for this video is scaffolding does allow mobs to spawn despite being a transparent block. So as long as you don't question exactly how that one works, as long also as you don't question my beautiful flower pots right here, which operate in anti-gravity mode, then we'll be perfectly good. Anyway, I think the key question now, though, is the Nether. Because everyone isn't as fanatic as me about covering my world in light or partial blocks, but everyone does know that these are the easy things to do in the overworld, and the end is roughly the same. There's only one mob you're really watching out for regarding mob spawning. However, the Nether is an entirely different beast because there's lots of different spawn rules, so let's go there now to find out about them. So while I'm here, I should probably focus on how all mobs spawn and the interesting way it interacts with light levels and how it's basically the same as the overworld, despite this feeling like a very different dimension. Also, that's a fun place for piglins to spawn, huh? But I could focus on all of that first, but there's one problem that's far bigger than every other Nether mob put together, unless you're in a basalt delta biome, or you know, there's basically no scenario where your biggest problem in a long-term survival world isn't the Ghast. Which, it's funny, because this is the one time that I haven't seen a Ghast within 10 seconds of standing around the Nether, because Ghasts spawn everywhere, and they are a pain. I mean, the biggest problem with Ghasts isn't necessarily that they're hard to kill, it's just that it's time-consuming. It always feels like it's working wrong. Like, you know, that was perfectly fine on the second attempt, but what about the first one? And also, it's explosive, it's fiery, it's everything that's wrong with this dimension, and if you don't have fast healing to get away from that, as all Bedrock players don't, it is a real nightmare of a situation. Now, let's compound this with the problem, by the way. Let's say you're working on a giant tunnel through the Nether. The reason behind this, a lot of people have been asking, this is a 1,000 block tunnel I'm working on, although I'm carving it right through my Nether, I'm getting really into, I guess it's called boring, right? I'm tunnel boring this giant thing solely because I want to be able to fly through my nether quicker. However, there is one fatal flaw of this tunnel. It is so big that it allows ghasts to spawn within it, alongside apparently wither skeletons. But it's so big that ghasts can spawn in this tunnel, and that's a big problem, because this is designed to save time and make it safer. I mean, it took me minutes before flying through lots of weird nether caverns and having to take indirect routings. It was very, very awkward, inconsiderate, and annoying that I had to deal with that, which is why the new better method, it would take me almost 5 minutes before to do this almost 1,000 block journey, equivalent to about 10,000 in the overworld, but now with this tunnel, as soon as I get here, I can fly and... Actually, let's find out together exactly how long this takes. I mean, wow, look at the power of editing. The timer's already there on the screen. This tunnel isn't even finished yet, as you can probably very clearly tell, but even with just the direct pathway and jumping through it in some sections when they're not necessarily all the way tunneled, being able to just fly through and have an instant pathway will get me there in 20, 30 seconds in the end. But even now, even having just done the sections that I have, oh god, this is this is a little bit fiery, as you can tell, but even just the sections that we've done, we've already traveled half the distance of this tunnel. We're about to have gone 2/3 the distance of the tunnel, and wow, am I there already? I actually don't know how long that was. You can see more information than I can, but that was less than a minute, right? That felt like 30 seconds or so, and it will get faster, and we can even use boats when we're done. I mean, have you seen how fast boats can be? This, 5-minute ordeal can turn into 20 seconds, which is why I'm spending dozens of hours to save 3 to 4 minutes. Because if you spend dozens of hours to save 3 to 4 minutes, then you're like a time genius. That's just how that is. So yeah, that's why I've been digging this so much. So needless to say, the tunnel is important, and I hate it when ghasts spawn around it, which is obviously avoidable once the tunnel is finished and fully enclosed, but it's even worse when they spawn on the inside of it. I mean, for real, this is a carefully crafted tunnel that's basically made from netherrack if you look around, and it's gonna get destroyed, and the beauty of the circle, which I know it's not quite, it is a perfect circle, but when you go diagonally, you need to make more than a perfect circle for it to look perfect. But either way, this beautiful, beautiful tunnel is just gonna get destroyed over time unless I can ghast-proof it. And unlike the rest of the nether mobs, which are quite easy to stop spawning, how do you stop a magma cube, or a piglin, or a zombified piglin, or a wither skeleton spawning? Well, you have a light level, which is 11 or higher. That means you have to be... Man, these guys pack a punch, huh? That means you have to be at least 3 blocks from a torch. So this is light level 14, 13, 12, 11. You have to have a lot of torches down, or a lot of fire, or a lot of buttons, or whatever else you want to do. It is actually quite challenging to stop nether mobs spawning altogether. It's the hardest dimension to mob proof because it's literally hell. They didn't want to make it easy. Although, in 1.20, it does get a lot easier because they're trying to nerf portal farms. Good job, Mojang, by the way. Going for a nerf. Really appreciate that. I think nerfing certain farms when they're OP, probably a good idea, by the way. But yeah, anyway, so we can stop all of those mobs by spawning just with light level or with slabs. However, covering this entire thing of slabs not only isn't viable in terms of resources, because it's 1,000 blocks long, but it's also going to ruin the aesthetic of the tunnel. So what else do you have to do? Well, allow me to give you a fun diagram of how ghasts spawn. They don't, unlike most mobs which spawn directly on top of a block, a ghast spawns a block above a block. So let's say that this right here is our block, which we're worried about mobs spawning on. By the way, 2 half slabs does count as a full block as far as Minecraft is concerned. It has to be physically less than a block, just in case that's unclear. I think I made that mistake a long time ago. Also, a top half of a slab counts as a block for mob spawning purposes. Interesting stuff to know. But my point here is meant to be about ghasts, because ghasts spawn the block above it, and then they require a 4 by 5 by 5 area to be clear. So that means it would have to be, 5 area blocks over there, and then has to be 4 blocks tall, and then 5 blocks deep. So every single one of these blocks needs to be unobstructed. So just imagine this is 5 blocks deep. Okay, I can't actually just say just imagine. I'm gonna physically draw this one out for you. So this is the area that would need to be entirely free around the block. That's to be in the middle because the ghast is already centered, for no ghast to spawn. It's a really, really large area, so it's actually quite easy to prevent ghast spawns. You just need to have any one of these blocks be interrupted, and then make sure that there is no area this big. Or you could do the other thing, which is to just put partial blocks down. So, if you put a half slab there, or sorry, it's just a slab. The half slab would be a quarter slab. But anyway, if you just place down a slab there, now this entire thing is irrelevant, even if it is there, because there's no solid block for the ghast to spawn on. Funnily enough, something I noticed is my tunnel did spawn the very occasional ghast before, but it was placing down these blue ice blocks, with which I'm gonna eventually do some boating, which caused the ghast to spawn. So how do I stop that? Well, I can do the exact same things I would do elsewhere, or I can just interrupt the ghast somewhere. Let's say you don't want to cover this in carpet because, for whatever reason, boats don't work on carpet. I mean, it makes sense from a lore reason, but not from a in-game logic perspective, because they will run over torches and all sorts of other things. But yeah, what you'd have to do is interrupt every 4x5x5 spawning cube around here. So you could do this really lazily by just having a big tower like this, and then midway up the tower having little prongs go out. Now you can see with this little thing, this little fun copter, there is now no way for ghast to spawn, at least above this area of it, because a ghast. Actually, I think we went too low on the spikes. But yeah, it would be impossible for mobs to spawn on this because obviously all the blocks are taken. But by using a solid block, we probably made more spawn opportunities for ghast. So you could do something relatively low-tech like that, but today I'm not going for low-tech, I'm going for the opposite of low-tech. And so what do I do instead? Obviously we use lanterns, except, oh, yeah, they've got the same problem as carpets. They don't stop the boats from running at full speed, but they do stop the boats from running. So, that's not a great solution. I do think lanterns are a great solution to other mob spawning problems you might have, but they're not the solution for boats. So yeah, I originally had it planned that I was gonna have big chains coming from the ceilings and put some lanterns on them, and I'm sure that would actually look pretty cool and be a great addition to the tunnel. To actually make it the best tunnel for flying, it might make more sense to do the addition down here where the actual ghast are spawning. And so here is my idea. I've got some birchwood now. After a little trip to my overworld, I can make myself a ton of birch buttons, and if I place those birch buttons down, even though, by the way, blue ice has a light level to it, which is enough to prevent some mobs from spawning, it won't prevent all mobs from spawning just of the light level by itself. Also, the light level thing is only true on Bedrock. I have no idea why there is a light level difference between platforms, but, take it up with Jeb, not me. Anyway, with that said, this is this is a thing we can use to prevent not only ghast from spawning, because there'll be no solid block for them to spawn on top of, but which we can use also to prevent the wither skeletons and the blazes, which you can see are wreaking havoc on me right now. Because even though you can kill basically every nether mob with a well-placed trident throw or two, no one wants to sit here doing this. It's the same. Wow, free trident hits just to kill a blaze. No one has that much time, if we're being totally honest. Literally no one has that much time. And if you happen to place your strutter, let's say you place a tunnel right through the old nether fortress, you might run into some problems. It's something I've started to realize. And so having a big pathway go right through one of these nether fortresses is a big problem. Also, when I killed one of the wither skeletons, I got myself a wither skull. How awesome. But I need one. I need some of those for my next big beacon project at some point. But yeah, as you can see, it's going to be so frustrating having all of these mobs spawn all the time, especially on top of this. And so what do you do about that? Well, you can use light to make all of these other mobs stop spawning, but using buttons or using some combination of the two can allow you to stop all mobs from spawning here, even magma cubes, because yeah, like I say, it really defeats the point of having a fast transport method if you have to constantly stop and fight mobs and eat, because now those mobs have taken away a lot of your health, and so these buttons are the solution to that. But you might be thinking like, oh no, Toycat, but buttons, just like the lanterns, they're going to stop your boat from moving. And honestly, I think there's a really good argument that buttons probably should stop your boat from moving. However, allow me to show you the reality, which, as we all know, expectations and reality, very different things all of the time. But yeah, let me show you right now, if I get on my little boat, what happens when I hit the buttons. It used to be you'd go faster when you hit them, but now you just go the exact same speed. There is no penalty for going over buttons, and, should there be one, is a debate for another time. I would be fine with that nerf, but for now, we can prevent mob spawns and have literally zero impact on our ability to ride a boat through here, which is pretty great. So yeah, all I need is a ton of birchwood, and we can prevent mob spawning. Honestly, some of the nicest moments in Minecraft are these ones when you know exactly how to solve a problem, it's finally started to work in the areas you're doing it, and you just have to do that over a wider area. This is why people enjoy farming to some extent, I think. This is why people enjoy massive projects. It's because it's about taking something you do know and expanding it a little bit further. Obviously, in this case, it looks like the blue ice runs out, and that is not just because I haven't placed it yet. I have ran out of blue ice in this world. Something which is very hard to fix. So let's mine some blue ice, or some packed ice at least. Hopefully as we mine through this, we'll see some blue ice that we can mine for ourselves. But yeah, we need to get a lot of ice, just so we can extend the pathway just a little bit to where the cave currently is. I think in the long run, it'd be better off to have like a better, go for a lot of blue ice mining in another iceberg biome. I've probably taken just about all of the blue ice this one can offer me, but there's just something fun about the fact that I took this iceberg biome down to the ground, then I took it a block below the ground level, and now we get to go below even that. There's just, something about destruction is fun in the icebergs because you can always keep on destroying. In the same way that in the real world, we can keep on destroying those polar ice caps and causing problems for these guys. In Minecraft, you can do it too. Unlike in the real world, you don't even have to feel bad about climate change. Unlike in the real world, climate change isn't even real. You are climate change. The only thing that needs to be stopped is you, if you're playing Minecraft correctly. Anyway, so, points about climate change aside, I think one of the easiest ways to prevent mob spawning is transparent blocks. But ultimately, it comes down to three things, right? You can have light levels, you can have transparent blocks, or you can just physically not have the space, and all of them are equally viable solutions for different points in time. You can, as long as you know the three different ways to do it, you can work it best into your build, and that's what art is probably all about, right? Is having the tools at your fingertips so you can do the fun things with them. There's always famous movies that come out that don't have the right, they're really well produced, but they're really badly written, or there's really low budget things that are great. It happens all the time because we are creative people that have lots of fun creative things. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit because Let's Plays, I love to mention while we're in here what I've been up to in the last week. A lot of people like it as an update as to what's going on in the Toy Cat world, and I don't want to dive into all the details yet, but it's been like a rough week for me. One of the rougher ones in a while. It'd been building for a little bit, but it's it's something I want to mention is when things got kind of bad, my immediate thought was I want to dive into some Minecraft, and I say this a lot, but Minecraft is the game that is always there for you. There's a lot of things that aren't always in the same boat, but Minecraft is a game that it takes as much or as little as you want. If you want to go around as the climate change force, you can do that. If you want to run around doing silly things in the Nether, you can do that. If you want to just, sit there, turning an entire plains biome into dirt pathways, do it. I've been really missing my flat world, by the way. It's coming back as soon as I'm back in the UK, which is, I think, actually the day this video goes live. But, ooh, blue ice, there we go. We finally got 4 blocks worth of it. So, doing pretty well for myself, don't want to brag. Look how many blue ice I've got. I can basically extend the pathway all the way to the end now. But yeah, so one of the things I realized is that's a thing. Another thing I realized is how much your mood and your stomach are really linked, and it's something that everyone. It's not the biggest revelation in the world, but it's always weird when you spot it in yourself, in my opinion, because you always just assume I eat the food and then my body turns that into energy. But because of the weird way we've evolved to obviously need to have signals sent about foods that are good that our body wants more and foods that are bad and our body wants less, in the same way that it makes no sense to be depressed because you don't have any friends. What biological sense do friends make? Well, actually it makes a lot of sense to be depressed when you have no friends because that means you might be out there dying alone. It makes a lot of sense to be depressed if you think you're never gonna reproduce, because that's one of the things the species is all about. So all these sorts of things that all these weird biological signals make sense, and one of them is food. And so I've noticed something very interesting, which is that when you're because it works both ways. When you're sad, your appetite goes very crazy. The stereotype is you sit there eating Ben and Jerry's and watching sad movies, right, crying in front of your TV. But I feel like it also can go, I feel like it goes the other way, where there's you forget to eat. You don't have as much passion for it anymore. Because, this happens to animals, which is why it's, uncomfortable to say it happens to humans. But, you just, you get less excited about, you know, like, when you're sick, you get less excited about living, and when you're emotionally in the same way, it gets the same thing sometimes, and that's what I think Minecraft is at least part of solving. And yeah, so even like if you've never been around someone who's depressed, if you've never been depressed yourself, you might know that like the ridiculous but partially true thing is like, yeah, you have to remind yourself to shower. Like it sounds like nonsense, but like there is a truth to why it is. Like just all these basic functions which are, you know, second nature and easy, maybe stop being that way so much. Also, yeah, I think rather than destroying the surface level of this, it definitely makes more sense to just go down and do it that way. Like, mine the blocks from down there, make sure we pick them all up, of course, but I'll get a lot more blue ice. Even if I get 1/9 as many blue ice, it's better than getting the packed ice, because then I don't have to craft it, and I'm a very lazy person who likes to avoid that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's an interesting revelation. Whenever I learn something about my body, I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Like, I know that's true for everyone else, but you like to, you know, in the same way, humans, we used to believe that animals were a separate category to us, and you can see why, right? It does feel correct that why do we lump ourselves in with hyenas? You know, have you ever seen a hyena? Have you seen a giraffe? They're not smart. Giraffes aren't sitting there, you know, like making, you know, like cool. Can giraffes even invest? Have you seen a giraffe ever draw a painting? I think not. Like, take any type of intelligence. Can a giraffe make Minecraft commentary? Has a giraffe ever built a tunnel in the Nether? Ooh, what's that? Humans 1? It's giraffe 0. Has a giraffe ever tried to survive 100 Minecraft days, the continuous live stream, for some reason? Ooh, is that another win for the humans? I think you'll find it is. Humans, number 1. Giraffes, sorry, just sitting there in the minor leagues by comparison. So I'm going to try and dig down from here and see where this leads me. Is it going to lead me also into blue ice? Or... Okay, getting the blue ice does require a little bit of looking around, honestly. But we're going to do it anyway. We need to get enough of this, so we'll do this right now. Yeah, it's really important to... It's weird to realize that in the same way we as humans are the same as animals, or not the same, but in the same category. Sometimes it can feel like, yeah, other humans are just... There are some things that I just don't understand about the human experience, and I wonder why that is. Like, am I, you know, like, is something wrong with me, or is something wrong with everyone else? Is the eternal struggle for at least some percentage of the population, and you know, at least it's been the struggle for me. Like, I just never quite knowing, like, well, this thing is normal, but it's also not a reflection of my life or how anything works for me in the slightest. So, is it actually normal? And so, whenever you find one of those things, it's like a weird experience. Like, it's comforting at the same time as being the exact opposite of comforting. Yeah, speaking of comforting but the exact opposite of comforting, I've got myself a lot of blue ice, which is really cool, because you know what I can do with this? It's another one of these weird transitions that takes me 5 minutes off camera. Oh, I've got 27 wither skeleton skulls now. That's enough for 9 wither fights. That'll be a fun time. Whoa, those piglins just spawned on a button. I'm a little bit worried about the theory not standing up now, unless piglins follow different rules, or they're spawning on the middle block. Let's hope it's that one. Anyway, so that transition was meant to be much better. Wow, I'm here in the Nether with my blue ice, and look what I can do with it. I can place it, and now the blue ice pathway gets a little bit longer. Yeah, there is a weird time that can come when you realize that something universal applies to you. And, you know, like, I'm trying to act like this is a real pleasant thing. Sometimes it's, like, the super unpleasant stuff. Like, I think the most common issue that people just kind of ignore and say, that's definitely not for me, is death, right? Is the very ending of it all. It's, because, you know, it's really... I've told the story before about how when I was young, my teacher told me not to eat sand, and just as an act of, like, defiance, I was like, well... I'm gonna eat the sand anyway. You can't tell me what to do. You know, teacher from, you know, from, like preschool, I guess. 0, Toy Cat 1. Me winning, her losing. I hate to tell you, but that's just how it is. Even though that's like, you know, a big part of it for me is like, I'm quite a contrarian. If you tell me to do something, I want to do the opposite. Like, that's why I barely do the whole, like, make sure to like the video, smash it. Because when people just say smash the like video with no other like context or explanation of why, it's like, why would I do that? You can't just tell me to do something blindly. By the way, if you want to blindly do something, feel free to subscribe. Or don't subscribe and then you might not see future videos. Oh, that's a very, very naked threat because there's so many YouTubers that of course you don't care about this particular one. But no, yeah, it's would that be a naked threat or a very hollow threat? Yeah, hollow, not naked. I mean, hollow and naked have overlap, but yeah, a big part of it was also like, I just didn't believe I could be harmed. Like, I'd been fine my entire life to that point. Like, I genuinely didn't think I could die age 5. And so I was like, well, if I eat the sand and I die, that would be interesting, right? I mean, like, wouldn't that be something? I would now know, no human alive, even the smartest human beings alive, know what death is actually like. We have a pretty good idea, you know, sometimes spiritual, sometimes, you know, like scientifical. We have a pretty good idea that it feels like nothing after you're dead. But what about the death itself? The closest thing we have is that some people have gone through near-death experiences, and so they can tell us what they think it's like because they were on the way to death. But like, I couldn't tell you what a Big Mac tasted like if I was once driving to McDonald's and then got out of my car and started driving back, right? That's not how that one works at all. I hate to tell you, I can't tell you what it's like to, you know, I can't tell you what it's like to beat the Warden, the Wither, and the Ender Dragon at the same time. Even though I beat them all separately, and I bet it feels like something, I have a good assumption. Should we replace yeah, let's replace the lava with ice. I think there's a perfect irony to that. Or, I guess, fun little coincidence if nothing else. So yeah, this blue ice pathway is going to run some decent distance that way, but it also has to run some decent distance this way. Also, really, have the buttons solved it all by themselves? After the piglins, I was worried, but I think they have. I assumed that what I'd have to do down underneath is use my torches, because I've got these lovely torches down here, and then I was going to be like, but here's a fun thing I can do instead, because obviously there's fire everywhere. We could just, like, place a bit of fire, place a bit of fire every, like, let's call it 3 blocks, and on the other side do a piece of fire every 3 blocks, but, like, not lined up. And then we could slowly light every single block, prevent ghasts from spawning, and also have, you know, no wither skeletons and whatnot. But yeah, it looks like all the mobs have just stopped spawning, so we can ignore this for now. As you all know, if the problem, you know, this is actually what they advise when you take medication. It always says, as soon as you feel fine, stop taking it. It'll probably be just great. Especially antibiotics. Pro tip, internet, that is, there's some bad life advice for all of you. You know, you deserve it. If you were gonna take medical advice from a YouTuber, then, you know, maybe that's the real problem here, and not the advice the YouTuber's giving. I sometimes get that, like, oh, Toycat, don't you think you're encouraging insert, you know, protect, you know, like we have these groups where we're like, oh yeah, aren't you scared about what children will do when they watch your video? And it's like, well, I mean, I think that people can think for themselves, and they're not. You know, like, there is no amount of telling me about, you know, the worst doctrines in the world. There's no amount. You know, I guess if you told me not to become a insert bad thing here, maybe that would work on me. But there's no amount of any propaganda you can give me that will convince me of a lot of things, right? You cannot convince me that gravity isn't real, even though, you know, I'm sure our explanation of it is a little bit of a oversimplification. I do think the idea of gravity probably is legit, right? Anyway, so yeah, this is my big Nether tunnel. As you can see, it's missing a few of the sides right now. I had this really fun idea, especially for here. What I want to do is have a big window in here, because I've got, maybe you noticed, I've got a glass shulker box. So I figured, like, if you're gonna have a big tunnel, especially one like this where it's kind of enclosed and it's otherwise would be out in the open, it's worth having a bit of glass, like a little peephole, so that we can see inside it from outside it. Also, I've got some serious inventory problems. I know, don't worry. It's it's one of my things I need to solve. But let's take some glass and let's place some over here. Let's make a lovely little window on the corner. So I think we'll actually make the whole wall the window. So if we also a zombie spawned here. How very interesting. Same rules, as you can see, there's no half blocks, there's no partial blocks, there's not enough light. And so a zombie spawned there. The the fact that zombies can spawn in the Nether at all is a weird artifact of old worlds. If you're curious, should there be this artifact? Again, very different question. But now we can make a lovely little window. Does the window look good? That's a different question. I imagine that the thing we have to do to make the window look good is have it be properly enclosed on all sides. One of the things I'm trying to work on, by the way, is my enunciation. I think it's natural for all people that you slowly let slip the precise way you say words. But I think as like a person who speaks for, God knows how many minutes in a row, it's something I really want to work on. So yeah, we're going to place our big old glass here. I think we can make another one further down the line if this one works. But this is just the test one, so I can see out properly, right? So we place make sure there's polished, is it polished or is it? Yeah, we've got some polished deep slate on this side. Make sure the block is all good on both sides. And then that is our window. Does this look good, internet? I kind of like it, right? Imagine that's actually sealed in, because right now there's a giant window. That is actually pretty cool, being able to see the outside world from the safety of inside. There'll be no mobs spawning on the inside of this, because again, I'm going to light it up correctly. I'm going to use buttons where... So yeah, he's definitely spawning in between the buttons. That is a sign I need to place more buttons, probably. But I don't have any buttons on me, and I don't want to go get some because my inventory is horrific. Let's place all these polished deep slate, and then let's get those buttons. I have to quickly cut short my little segment of block cutting, because wow, a ghast spawned in my tunnel that I haven't covered in buttons, and he's, I have armor, thankfully, but he would have wrecked me straight unconscious if it weren't for all those blocks. So thank God for them. There's one inside the tunnel and one outside the tunnel, so this is going to be especially fun, I think. Wow, that does look pretty good, doesn't it? The only thing that could make it look better is if there weren't ghasts spawning on the inside of the tunnel, because it's a nice tunnel, I think. But yeah, we need to stop that. Let's go fix it. Okay, I'm back with my birch buttons and a lot of birch logs, so I can make a ton more of these, as well as some blue ice, and wow, even better than any of that, my pickaxe has been upgraded from efficiency 2 to efficiency 3. You might wonder why I'm bothering to use an efficiency-free pickaxe, and one is because this tunnel is 190-something thousand blocks. We don't know the exact number till it's done, but there is so much netherrack that needs to be mined, and using netherite just doesn't make any sense for the sense of resources, really, on one level. But on the other level, it doesn't make sense because it doesn't mine any faster. You can mine instantly with efficiency-free anyway. Look at this. I don't need a beacon. I don't need netherite. I'm just tearing through this like it's not even there. So that's why I have the pickaxes that I do, by the way. And I'm really proud of the amount of mining I've done. Like, I've been keeping a rough total, and I'm at about, 40% done now. So I've mined 70-something thousand blocks, and that is so many when you put it in perspective. Like, every single one of these buttons is like a nice little place by itself. It's cool that we can place like, one per second maybe. But to do that for every, for hours and hours and hours, we're now 20-something hours in. It's a fun project. I think, honestly, take this from someone who needed Minecraft more than a lot of things this week. Maybe more than a lot of people. Having like these big projects that you're working on is really, really great because you know that your time and your productivity, it's going somewhere important. It's even if it's not important to you right now, it's important to future you. And in my opinion, that's not just important to know for Minecraft. It's like, oh yeah, that's how you can be good at functioning. That is like a really important way to live your life for anything, really. Like, you need to be able to understand the relationship between your past self and present you. Like, it sucks if you're in a bad place right now. Maybe, a lot of problems in life are solely down to bad luck of the draw. Maybe most problems even. But some problems are down to mistakes you've made in the past. The reason I feel so bad is because even if I know I'm lactose intolerant, I ate cheese, right? But past me really enjoyed eating the cheese and just kind of handed the problem off to future me. Even if you think about something as minor as like, the way you get into a parking space. You can get it, I've been driving a bit in Vegas recently because it's the only way to get around American cities. Don't know if you can tell. But if you think about when you think about parking, you can park in one of two ways. You can go front in, which means later you have to reverse out, or you can reverse in, which is a little bit harder, but means that later it's a lot easier to get out. By the way, there's a lot of banging on one of my walls. I hope everything's I hope everything's fine. But yeah, you really need to work out the relationship between past you and future you. Also, that is a Ghast. He spawned outside the tunnel, which makes sense. I can't stop them from spawning out there. I can place the blocks all I like, but that's not going to solve my problems. But yeah, I think you can either do a favor for future you, or you can know that future you wants to do the favor for past you, which isn't really doing a favor. It's like it's required, right? In the same way that earning $20 when you're a child is like, wow. See, like I speak in, I never earned $20. I'm British. I earn £20. I'm Americanizing the story because the international audience knows dollars and they don't know pounds. By the way, there's like a big announcement about where my life is heading, residency-wise, that I'll make when I'm ready to. But yeah, the interesting thing about the interesting thing about that exchange is like, yeah, do you do the thing for future you or do you do it for now? Because like I mentioned with the money thing, when you get $20 and you have no preconception of like what you need to spend it on, it's amazing. If you have rent that's coming due, like getting Christmas money can be a real bummer if you think to yourself like, yeah, I'm going to need that if I'm going to pay this really big bill. Or even worse is when you buy things on credit and, oh yeah, I am paying for the nice sofa or TV or whatever it is that I bought a few months ago. Like, that is a bad feeling you should ideally do your best to avoid, in my opinion. Also, come on, Ghast. At some point, you've got to stop. At some point, you've got to say, there's so many buttons around, I'm not going to spawn. Again, they're all spawning outside the tunnel. Inside the tunnel has been Ghast-free since these buttons, which is a pretty cool development, if you ask me. I wonder if this will cause more problems because it's a straight line. I imagine not, but we'll find out, I guess. So yeah, in the same way, when you know you've just got to do something, it's way less fun than when you choose to do something, even when it's the exact same thing, weirdly enough. But also, you need to work out the relationship of, like, doing things... That's how it works for the future, in my opinion. Like, when we're talking about things that haven't happened yet, it is a huge sacrifice that past you is expecting right now you to make, and sometimes you don't want to make that sacrifice. Sometimes you think past you's been a little bit of a dick for making you make that sacrifice. Whereas the opposite is being really nice to future you, so that, okay, if you imagine this is where that hypothetical comes from, in my opinion. Imagine you wake up and you're in, who's like a young billionaire, like I guess Mark Zuckerberg. You don't want to be too old because otherwise the whole thing loses point. But imagine you wake up in the body of someone who's won the lottery or someone who has a lot of money. Wow. Like that's a really fun thing to, or even just on a more minor scale, like someone who works out every day and is really, really in shape and is really attractive. Let's just say, it's like, wow, that is so cool. Imagine all the things you'd do. When in to some extent in reality, that's just that is what it would be like if past you had done all those things. Past you's life would have sucked so much more. Like me eating the cheese this morning. Like, man, I really enjoyed the cheese. I'm gonna level with you. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I liked it anyway. I could have just made a crafting table from the birch I had. I really know I shouldn't have done it, but it was just good. And if it's good, then maybe that's worthwhile, is what I think. But the ideal set of thoughts would be, what if I did things that had the... In the same way, I think everyone's got a utilitarian brain at heart. Like, you should do the net most good for the net most people, right? Ideally. We all get complicated when we work out what good is and how many people matter from, whether our personal tribe matters more than the collective tribe. But we all agree with the vague idea that you should do good for the collective over good for the self. That you should do good for the many and not the few, right? Or the one for all and all for one. I don't know the way people put that. Everyone has that vague idea, but then when you start putting it into motion, that's when things get complicated real quickly. And so if you think about it, what's the best thing you can do for the most versions of you? I mean, like, I don't know, living longer is probably a good one. Or, like, you know, making, you know, like better decisions of your, like, if you're watching this and you got a problem with, like, I don't know, like, you wait, just drink a bit more water. I love water, so this isn't a sacrifice for me. But, I do notice the difference between, when I go crazy on drinking, what else I drink and just water. Like, water, wow. It's what your body craves. When, you know, if you really like, this is just my take. This is not science. This is just random dude's opinion on the internet. When you drink, like a Coke or whatever and you really enjoy it, you're really enjoying the water that makes up 95%. And then the flavor, the little, like, quick, you know, the thing that satiates you is water. And the thing that gets you to want to drink it in the first place is the sugar or whatever else is in that. I'm not going to pretend I know the chemical breakdown of Coke. Also, yeah, even though most of this is going to be buttoned only on the edges, I think for this middle section where you can see it's clearly a stronghold, it might make sense to place some buttons in the middle too. I don't know how many buttons or for how long, but I'm just guessing if we do this, we'll have a better time. Also, I'm guessing we should place a bunch of torches or fire or something. Like, pro tip, when you have a Nether fortress that's like around and it's not really being used, just place a torch here, or there, or everywhere. And now we don't have to deal with mobs. I assume. This tunnel is not fully mob-proofed yet, but you'll notice how earlier there was 5 wither skeletons, some blazers, a ghast, and some piglins, and now there's just a zombie piglin. In fact, let's kill him. Let's kill him right now. Pro tip, Smite 5 sword can one-hit KO piglins. And wow, look at that. The tunnel is safe. Safe for me to ride a boat through again and again and again and again. And yeah, that is a piece of work I did right now, and it benefited my future self. Working out small things you can do like that in Minecraft, whether it's a, you know, it's a like 40, 50 hour tunnel project through the Nether, or whether it's just something as simple as mob proofing, so you don't have to see ghast. Oh look, there's no ghast here. There's just a weird looking magma cube. Doing those things for yourself is something you'll probably come to appreciate. Look at this. Oh, okay, a blaze spawned there. But whatever, he spawned on the side. So now let's mob-proof the sides of the tunnel. That's what you gotta do, and if you do it, you'll have a better time. That's why mob-proofing is actually you doing a favor to future you, and it's something you can really benefit from, or I'm just a guy talking on the internet. Either way, I hope you'll enjoy the video, because you can subscribe if you want to see more Let's Plays. They happen on Mondays. Not every Monday, but I think, you know, I like survival Minecraft, so they'll happen from time to time. And also, check out Streamless. It's starting real soon. I'm going to stream for most of the days in December. I was going to say November, but definitely getting the month wrong with that one. And if you want to come check them out, it's a great way to see stuff like this, the long-form content, which I like to make on YouTube. I'm going to level with you. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you'll enjoy, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. That was like perfectly placed too. Whee! Maybe not to that point, but still.